Morning to all. I am Dr. M. J. Selvi, Assistant Professor, Department of Networking and Communication. Today we are going to discuss the topic of TCP client-server communication and TCP package. In TCP client-server communication, how the connection is established between the client and the server. So the initial stage for connection establishment, it is done from the server side. So what the server does, the server process starts first. It calls a socket function to create a socket. So this socket is only used during the connection establishment. The server process then calls a bind function to bind this connection to the socket address of the server computer. The server program then calls the accept function. So in the initial stage, what it is doing, that is from the server process, what it does. So first we need to create a socket function. So once we create the socket function, it has to be binded. So after that, the server program then calls the accept function. So in detail, we'll just look over to the topic of accept function, what the accept the system call is doing. The accept function is called as a blocking function when it is called. It is blocked until the TCP receives a connection request from the client. The accept function, then it is unblocked and it creates a new socket called the connect socket that includes the socket address of the client that is sent to synchronize the segment. So after the accept function is unblocked, the server knows that the client needs its service. So what it does, it provides a concurrency such that the server process calls the fork function. So with the help of the fork function, we'll be able to create a new process, which we call as a child process, which is exactly same as that of a parental process. So after calling the fork function, the two processes, the child process as well as the parent process, are running concurrently, but each can do different things. So this is the way that the client as well as server are running concurrently. Next, we will look to the function for client-server communication. In both TCP client and in TCP server, we are using the socket function. The use of the socket function is to create a socket. Next function is the connect function. This connect function is used by the client to connect with the server. The bind function is used by the TCP server. Using the bind function, the server will bind the IP address as well as the port specific port number and as well as any specific services to be binded. And the next function, that is of a listen function, it is used by the TCP server. It listens what are the incoming connections that are coming from the TCP client. And accept function, it is used by the TCP server. So whenever the accept function is executed at the server side, at that time, the client is connected with the server. So these are the normal system calls which we use. That is of socket, connect, bind, listen, and accept. And once the connection is established between the client and the server, then we start sending and receiving the information. So client and the server start exchanging the information or the data by using the functions calls of send, receive, or else send to and receive from. And at last, the last function is the close function, which is used in both the TCP client and TCP server. This is used to terminate the entire connection that has been established. Next to our TCP connection establishment between client and server, we are going to look into the concept of TCP package. So in this TCP package, it is of a stream service. It is a connection-oriented protocol with an involved state transition diagram. It uses a flow and error control. It is so complex because the actual code includes tens of thousands of lines. In this TCP package, we have got 5 components are there. The first component it is of a transmission control block, timers, and 3 software modules are there. First one is a main module, second is a input processing module, and the third one is a output processing module. So this TCP package consists of 5 components: TCP, timers, main module, input processing module, and output processing module. In this transmission control block, it is a connection-oriented transfer protocol. So a connection may be open for a long period of time. So to control the connection, we are using a structure to hold the information about each and every connection. So that is called as a transmission control block. So in this transmission control block, there are various fields, and the most commonly used fields are the state, process, local IP address, local port number, remote IP address, remote port number, interface, buffer size, buffer pointer, local window, remote window, timeout values, sending the sequence number, receiving the sequence number, sending the acknowledgement number, and the round trip time. So these are the various fields which we are using in the transmission control block. And the second component is a timer. So normally we have seen 4 types of timers in the earlier classes. So the first one, it is of a retransmission timer, persistent timer, and keep alive timer, and a time and wait timer. So there are 4 timers, and these timers are needed to keep track of each and every operations that is being carried. And the software modules or the main module. The first one is a main module. So this main module will be invoked by an arriving TCP segment, timeout event, or a message from any application. So we are saying this main module is a very complicated module because the action to be taken depends upon the current state of the TCP. And the fourth component, that is of an input processing module. So input processing module handles all the details whichever is required for the communication process whenever an acknowledgement is received when the TCP is in the established state. So this module sends an acknowledgement if it is needed, and it takes care of the window size, and it also performs the error checking. So when the connection is established, the input processing module handles all necessary information that is needed, and the acknowledgement is also given, and the window size also needs to be taken care, and the error checking is done. So when we come to the output module, it handles all details that is needed to send out the data that is received from the application program whenever we are giving the connection is established, that is in the established state. And this modules handles the retransmission timeouts, persistent timeout, and the remaining timers also it is being handled. Thank you.